I would like to see Mr. de Klerk gather them together, black and white, Bishop Tutu, everyone, come together and repent for lying on God. Now, I would ask you as a Christian, one who proclaims and professes to have met Jesus, how are you and your people going to develop 2 million jobs for the country? All right. How are you going to stop making the Pope white, Mary white, Jesus white, Moses white when they were not white? When and where are you going to develop a mass education program and not tell the people to wait till they get to heaven? When are you going to tell the man with 47 cars to sell those cars and give that money back to the poor people so that they might have a decent life? When are you going to repent on behalf of the Christians for enslaving the people, the descendants of whom are in this building tonight? When are you going to repent for causing the slaves to be prostitutes? When are you going to repent and ask forgiveness? When are you going to ask the white people to give back at least half of the 87% of the land that they stole in view of the fact that the Bible said, thou shalt not steal? When are you going to persuade your Christian white brothers to not control 95% of every asset in this country? And finally, when are you going to persuade the white people to give to the Tswana tribe all the Kimberly property that was the birthplace of all of the diamonds, and give them an accounting for all the money due to them? When?
I have not studied much, but what I do know, I have met Jesus.
Thank you.
And
very
I
much.
know he has changed my life.
So you don't want to answer the question?
That he will change many other
Thank
people
you, sir.
if accept him.
Can I have the next question?
All right,
please?
brother.
Thank you very much.
Keep the faith. When white people say they're white, they're not referring to the color of their skin. If Margaret Thatcher gets a suntan, I don't know what it would look like, but let's just assume that Margaret Thatcher got a suntan. You wouldn't call her a colored woman, would you? You would still call her a white woman, even though her skin may be brown. What do you mean when you say white? You mean that she is from Europe. So whether she's Italian, white, Sweden, white, England, white, France, white. White means coming from Europe. Black means coming from Africa. So whether we're fair skin, brown skin, dark skin, East Coast, West Coast, North, South, if we're from the black continent and we've been here 300 years, we are black people from the black continent. All over the world, 1 billion people uniting through Ramadan. That's why I'm hopeful and optimistic that by the year 2050, when 1 out of every 2 persons would have been born a Muslim, we would have the first real meaningful opportunity for a permanent world peace. Assalamu alaikum. This country could explode. Who will be the first targets? The businessmen, the lawyers, those who didn't want the masses in their office. They will come without your permission. So if Hitler killed 6 million Jews who were European Jews, and Hitler was a European, give the Jews part of Germany, not of Palestine. Sure, he works, so do I. Raising the kids is not easy. Cooking and washing and taking them to school, this is not easy. He doesn't seem to understand I work too. What I'm trying to find out, and you may know better than I do,
Tell me specifically, if I got this, everyone in this room, and we went out to the homeland and we started teaching people how to read who did not know how to read, what would the government do? What I'm saying to you in closing is that there is a great opportunity to really be a new South Africa and a new African. Forget the begging. There will be no gifts. I don't care what the World Bank tells you and the International Monetary Fund tells you. It's crumbs.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Respected guests, brothers and sisters, I have been given the privilege of performing a simple yet important task in introducing to you three aspects of tonight's function, namely some information on Amal, your hosts, a brief motivation for tonight's subject matter, and most important, an introduction to our very special visitor and guest, Dr. Abdullah Tariq Al Mansoor. Your organizing committee has made it abundantly clear to me that you all have registered and sacrificed your evening not to listen to me, but rather to our guest, and have thus placed a time limit on me. Be rest assured that I will complete my task as briefly as possible. The Association of Accountants and Lawyers for Islamic Law was formed some years ago by members of these respective professions who believed that Islam is a comprehensive and dynamic ideology capable of providing a clear and progressive direction in the economic, business and legal fields. The solution it seeks and advocates are meant to benefit those who are concerned with the weaknesses inherent in the existing economic, business and legal systems. Amal is research orientated and provides a forum where ideas are discussed and initiatives taken to implement those aspects that merit implementation. In the past, Amal, together with its members, have arranged major seminars, published and printed literature on the law of succession, the Islamic law of divorce, the law of trusts, employer-employee relationships. Amal has provided speakers and participants to many community organizations whenever required to do so to address various aspects of Islamic and/or community affairs. Has represented the South African Muslim community at conferences locally and internationally whenever required to do so. Has from time to time submitted memoranda on various issues of concern, more significantly its comprehensive and lengthy submission to the Law Commission on its research project number 59 titled Islamic Law and Related Matters. The varied and multifarious activities of Amal have briefly been mentioned. However, what needs to be recorded and made abundantly clear is that despite its achievements, it is still a fledgling organization with a potential for growth and improvement. The question has been raised, why the discussion on the role of the professions in a new and changing South Africa? For South Africa, indeed for the whole world, the past year has been one of change and major upheaval. In Eastern Europe and even the Soviet Union itself, political and economic upheaval surges ahead in an unstoppable tide. For the first time in the political history of South Africa, the possibility exists of breaking through the granite walls of apartheid and human exploitation, unraveling the energies of the contending forces and channeling them in the services of creating a society secure for all of us, obviously seems to be what this ravaged country is crying out for. But how? Who is to do it? When are the questions. It is therefore at this historic period of our transition that we as professionals, be it lawyers, accountants, economists or the like, should be taking stock of ourselves and evaluating our roles, our participation and involvement in a new and changing South Africa. The changing socio-political scenarios places serious responsibilities on all of us. As people who cherish freedom, justice and peace, we too look forward to the upliftment of humanity and the development of our beloved continent Africa. The Quran reminds us as follows, "And why should you not fight in the cause of God and of those who being weak are ill-treated and oppressed, men, women and children whose cry is, Our Lord, rescue us from this town whose people are oppressors, and raise for us from thee one who will protect, and raise for us from thee one who will help." It is in this spirit and in this context that we welcome in our midst Brother Abdullah Tariq Al Mansoor. Like ourselves, Dr. Mansoor is no stranger to a violent society and to the experiences of oppression, repression and exploitation. His own experiences have committed him in the struggle for justice and peace. Dr. Mansoor is a person of international standing, and some highlights of this interesting personality may be summarized as follows. He was born in Pennsylvania, educated and obtained a Bachelor of Arts degree from Howard University with majors in philosophy and logic. Obtained the Pi Beta Kappa Honors Award, which is the highest academic recognition awarded in the United States. Recipient of a study fellowship to India and Egypt, and held private interviews with the Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, and President Gamal Abdel Nasser. Obtained the degree of Doctor of Jurisprudence from the University of California School of Law at Berkeley. Amongst his professional memberships include the California Bar Association, the American Bar Association, the International Bar Association, admitted to practice in the Supreme Courts of the State of California and of the United States. Professional membership also of the Islamic Centers of America and of the African American Association. He holds professional lectureship posts at the University of California at Berkeley and San Francisco State University. Guest lecturer at Harvard University, University of California at Berkeley, and the University of California at Los Angeles. He is recognized as an expert on the decline and emergence of Eastern Europe, Islamic economics, political and economic development in Africa, the Palestinian cause in international law, and the role of OPEC in the future of the world. Amongst his professional activities, he is the co-founder of the international law firm of Al-Walid, Al-Talal and Al Mansoor. He is a member of the board of directors of various international corporations involved in biomedicine, electronics, insurance, real estate and banking. His honors and citations include the World's Who's Who in finance and in industry, International Who's Who in the Arab world, World's Who's Who in American law, and World's Who's Who of intellectuals. Publications. Every year during Ramadan, Dr. Al Mansoor spends the month fasting, praying, and writing a new book. 12 books have been written during the past 12 Ramadans. It is our privilege to call upon Dr. Mansoor to address you. Jazakallah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is a great pleasure for me to be here with you, and I have to tell you that I have been looking forward to coming and sharing ideas with you. I do not look upon my presence this evening as a lecture so much as I do an opportunity to combine our experiences you coming from one part of the world and me from another, but sharing a common goal and a common bond. We are determined to make contributions based upon the uniqueness of our professional and business background to an orderly world, to the development of a new world order, both within the continent of Africa and particularly within South Africa. I feel that I have credentials, not those that have been read to you this evening, but physical credentials. Credentials acquired through my ancestors, hundreds of years ago and beyond. Thousands of years ago, on this very continent, my ancestors walked with your ancestors here. And so in a very real sense, we have an obligation to this continent. Let me mention a fact that is being circulated throughout the industrialized world, and to a lesser extent, the third world. The United Nations has utilized its demographic computer research capability to get some idea of the profile of the world in the coming years. Out of this research, two startling and very impressive discoveries have been highlighted and announced. Number one, in approximately 30 years from now, just 30 years, projected to be the year 2020, it is estimated that the population of Africa south of the Sahara will be 1,600,000,000, of which a preponderant number would have been born Muslims. The second revelation, in some sectors of the world, is even more dramatic than the first. And that is in approximately 60 years from now, the year 2050. It is estimated that 50% of the world would have been born a Muslim, assuming that there are no more converts, assuming no more dawah, assuming that in America, where Islam is the fastest growing religion, assuming in Asia, where Islam is the fastest growing religion, assuming in Africa, where Islam is the fastest growing religion, assuming in the Caribbean, where Islam is the fastest growing religion, everything stops tonight. And there are no more converts. It will mean that in the year 2050, 50% of the world would have been born a Muslim. Now, if you add into that equation a factor to represent the growing Muslims in the world, the theoretical world of Islam in the future looks great. And from a very selfish point of view, those of us who have grown up as minorities, both racially and religiously in the world, you cannot help but utter a small chuckle, if not a prodigious smile, at the prospects of being a majority of the world, in spite of ourselves, in spite of our occasional laziness, in spite of our occasional laxity in representing the faith. In spite of us, we will be a part of the majority. Let me add two other factors to suggest to you why the head of the Catholic Church is visiting Africa more than in any other period in history. Next April, a conference is targeted for the Vatican. It is expected that 20 individuals throughout the world will be invited to discuss for approximately 1 week the social, political, economic, and religious complexion of the world in the 21st century. Primarily because of a book that I wrote entitled Social Dynamism of the 21st Century, I have been invited to be one of the 20 participants. So for the last 6 months, I have been receiving volumes and volumes of material that relate to many strategies of religious groups and economic groups throughout the world. One thing caught my fancy, and that was the remark in one of the writings that the Catholic Church has decided that the future of the Catholic Church is not Europe, because the number of converts that they will obtain in Europe is marginal. It is not Latin America. In fact, the church expects to lose members in Latin America. In fact, in the last 10 years, the Catholic Church has lost 5 million members in Latin America. According to the Catholic hierarchy and religious engineers, the future of the African continent is the future of the Catholic Church. And they do not intend to lose this continent. 1,600,000,000 just south of the Sahara. In order to let you know that you are not alone in the recognition of the importance of Islam, I must share with you the fact that the government of China has recently declared that Islam is an indigenous religion to China, and as such must be accorded certain priorities. And Christendom is a foreign religion to China, and as such cannot enjoy the priorities of Islam. Let me mention one other event to try to give you a framework for both our obligations as well as opportunities, commercially, religiously, socially, economically, and psychologically. I didn't mention spiritually because I assume you take that for granted. Only a few years ago, a gentleman by the name of Professor Yugo Itagaki was commissioned by the government of Japan to travel to Saudi Arabia. And he spent some time in Mecca and in Taif. His purpose was to study the religion and the practices of Islam. More the theoretical religion than the practices. And his mandate was based upon the realization that the Japanese planners have decided that the future of Japan may not be so bright. If the Japanese lose their sense of discipline, if they lose their sense of ethical morality, if the Japanese lose the ability to save 15 and 20% of their earnings, and if the Japanese lose a respect for education and knowledge, the Japanese have predicted that their society will decline. They feel that the onslaught from television will be too powerful. From the soapbox operas to the action-orientated films to the sex films, there's no way that 120 or 150 million people can protect themselves alone. And therefore, the Japanese commissioned Mr. Itagaki to examine several religions to see which one might be incorporated and integrated into the culture of Japan to save the Japanese people. It is very interesting to recognize the conclusions of the renowned professor. He said, within the mandate that I have been given, it is my considerate conclusion that Islam holds a great probability for the ultimate solution to the economic, social, educational, and spiritual framework required for Japan to survive as a prosperous people in the 21st century. He said that in spite of us. If he could have traveled to every Islamic society and observed firsthand our deeds, he might have been hesitant to make such a risky and widespread generalization. Because in my travels around the world, one of the most important segments of our community is the businessmen, the accounting profession, and the lawyers. We, for better or for worse, have acquired the tools for change. And we Muslims, for better or for worse, have become complacent, from time to time lazy, in a more crude way, backward and retarded in respect to the challenges that are facing us. I sympathize with the professional. I am not here to scold you. Every time I talk to my family and my wonderful wife, I have to reflect over my schedule of living on airplanes. I have to admit that there is an element of selfishness that creeps into my unquenchable curiosity to know everything I can about the world. It's something about knowledge that excites me more than anything on this planet. I want to know about space. I want to know about satellite mapping. I want to know about genetic engineering. I want to know about astronomy. I want to know about archaeology. I want to know about geometry. I want to know about mathematics. Not just to make money. I love knowledge. It does something to me intellectually. And I think I understand what the Quran means when it says to us as Muslims, search the universe. That is not a request, that is a command. The first word that the Prophet, peace be upon him, heard was Iqra. Iqra. It was not pray. It was not fast. It was not zakat. Read. And that is where our Islamic professionals have our greatest defect. We feel that we have read enough. All of those years in school, all of those thick legal treatises and accounting forms and tax reports and tracking the development of inflation from an economic perspective, we feel tired. We don't want to see a book. And as a result, we are falling behind in the world. We are joining the class of beggars. We have little to offer the world. Because to be effective in the modern world is to offer knowledge. Those legal phrases that we have mastered so well that we can almost utter in our sleep may or may not constitute knowledge. It may in fact be a form of sophistry. It may have epistemological limitations. It may not enable a society to develop factories and computer programs and to understand robotics and to understand how to develop food production. It may be almost irrelevant in developing the basic marketing strategies. I'm suggesting that we cannot lose our legal framework, but we must pour into that framework knowledge of all kinds if we are to be relevant to the development of Africa and the development of South Africa. I would like to tell you that we have a choice. I would like to, because I sympathize with the psychology of professionals and businessmen. I know what it is like to be a part of a minority. and just to begin to see a little light. You don't want to invite controversy. Yes, I will pray. Yes, I will give zakat. But please, don't embarrass me with these phrases in public. Assalamu alaikum. Who's? Say, wa alaikum salam, brother. And we rationalize that we're not hiding Islam, but we want to position ourselves to show the dignified profile of Islam that will ultimately bring more respectable people in. We can't just criticize people and expect them to love us. This is a cop-out. Because psychologically, the years that you have spent becoming respectable, you don't want to lose that. The years that you have spent telling your children, look what your father has done, you do not want to lose that. I understand and I sympathize. You don't want to be seen out in these townships and homelands saying, come here, my brother, let me shake your hand, let me get to know you. Say, well, what if someone sees me? What if this is in the paper and that same brother sees me in the street and he comes to my office and all these poor black people fill up my office? What will happen? I understand. It's a psychological problem that accompanies success. On one hand, you work so hard for success. On the other hand, success breeds a professional outlook and profile. We are caught in a dilemma. We can talk freely. We're home. We're all businessmen and lawyers. We don't have to pretend with each other. Outside, we may not tell everything. I'm not going to say this Wednesday night. Wednesday night, I'll be in the next room. I have a completely different topic. I'm not going to talk about us. But tonight, I want to discharge my obligation to you in South Africa. I can only share with you my experiences. I can only tell you that my brothers and my sisters, we do not have a choice. If we fail at this critical juncture in the history of South Africa, we will be written out of the future. And we may visit each other in the funeral parlors and in the graveyards. This country could explode. I hope not. I pray not, but I'm a realist. It could happen. Who will be the first targets? The businessmen, the lawyers, those who didn't want the masses in their office. They will come without your permission. That is the cold reality of life. Trace any country, and you will find that what I am telling you is not new. It is a description of life. My friends, you have no choice. Now, that's not the only reason that we want to become involved. That's not the only reason that we want to demonstrate our good faith. But if the instinct of survival means anything at all, it is a reason for you to listen carefully to what I am saying. I am serious. We must become involved politically, economically, professionally, educationally, and religiously. We must. Or the price that we will pay will be too horrible to contemplate. On the other hand, if we become involved in nonsense, we have contributed nothing. Our greatest contribution comes from our experience. Zakat is wonderful, we have to do it. But what we have to offer Africa is an orderly way to develop, consulting, structuring, engineering a process. Because that, at the end of the day, is our background and experience. But to discharge that experience properly, we must read. I have had the great pleasure of visiting many offices today. And Alma has taken me around to see the lawyers. And I've asked a lot of questions. They don't know what I'm asking so many questions about. Well, one reason is I'm ignorant. I want to learn. When I leave here, I want to know much, much more than when I came. So I have to ask questions. But while I am asking questions, I am looking at the office. I'm looking for Fortune magazine. I'm looking for Forbes. I'm looking for Business Week. I'm looking for publications that reinforce an ability to understand business, time management. Unfortunately, today, I didn't see too many of these publications. You are what you eat, and you are what you read. We cannot, with all of our degrees, help this country develop if we are ignorant. Lawyering is not enough. There are not enough legal problems. We need to mix our lawyer accounting skills in with business to understand junk bonds, deficit financing. We have to understand how the central bank in this country operates. What are the problems that they are facing? We have to understand where the capital surpluses are in the world and how to attract them into South Africa. We must write articles to advise the United Nations and the World Bank. And let some of your research in this organization be targeted for the World Bank. Show them how South Africa can be developed in a practically and an orderly and a successful way, utilizing recognizable business principles. That's your obligation. You must go to the townships and show people how to start a business from scratch, like the Japanese. I'm not asking you to work in a business every day, but I am asking you to provide the theorizing structure. Teach people the basic things of how to keep books, how to see a market. I was talking to brothers today, and they said, we have problems in the townships. I said, the whole world has problems. Don't become a beggar. My experience in the Middle East, every time I come, there are lines of people lined up. Please give me this. Please give me this. This is degrading. How many of us went to the Middle East before oil was discovered and said, let us make a contribution to you Bedouins in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait? We thought about them not at all. While they were living on dates. and tea and kahwa. That's it. They were neglected and abused and despised. But now when we hear about the money, we want to claim, that's our money. What are you Arabs doing for Islam? The Quran tells you about that. The Quran says that Allah did not give everyone the same resource. And we should not covet what Allah has given someone else. I'm not going to Saudi Arabia begging them to come here and give me some money to set up a business in the township when we are here and qualified and able to do it ourselves. Then I want to have the people in the Middle East come here and see what we have done. Then they feel happy to give you because of performance. Performance, the quantification of results. This is Islam. You can pray 5 times a day, every day, and the people there will still be starving while you're praying. Because in our heart of hearts, we have perverted Islam. And we have blasphemed our Creator. And we will be held accountable for that. Allah has said to each and every one of us, I have done something that I have not done for the mountains. I've done it for you. Something that I've not done for the water and the rivers, I've done it for you. Something that I have not done for the heavens, I have done for you. And something that I have not done for any of the animals or the plants, I have done for you. I have given part of myself, the Creator. I have put it inside of you at birth, a mind. And I'm going to hold you responsible for how you use that great gift that I have given you. It is a gift collectively that was used to create the world. Each of us has that gift in us. And rather than use that gift to implement the teachings of Allah, we have adopted the cowardly practice of saying to Allah, please take the mind back, I prefer to be helpless. Please, I don't want the mind. I want you to have it so that I can go to you and say, Allah, would you do this in the townships? And would you do this in my family? And would you do this on the television? Would you do this in the political arena? And would you do this to change the society? And would you do this to change the Afrikaner's mind? Allah, you're so great and so powerful. You do it. It's insulting to our Creator. If Allah had intended to interfere in every event of the world, He would have made you like the rock and the mountain without a mind. He gave you the ability to become a lawyer. He gave you the ability to become an accountant or a businessman. It's the mind that He put in you. Now, how are we going to use that mind? Let me suggest a few areas, and then I will stop. Because you must have intellectual food and physical food. A balanced program is in the Quran. This country is facing a crisis. And the political arena is going to be volatile, jockeying for position. We are told by some not to worry about that. Only think about Iraq and Iran, or Iraq and Kuwait, or Jordan and Egypt. My brothers and my sisters, let me tell you something directly. I have been involved in the Middle East since 1966 in many, many levels, some of which I will not share with you this evening. If all of us tonight were to put our minds and thoughts together, from this room, we are not going to change the course of events in the Middle East over the next 2 or 3 years. In this room, we are not going to make that change. Regardless to how much energy and thought we expend, I believe we should expend it. I believe we should be aware. But we must recognize we can't change that right now. But you can have an effect on your home here in South Africa. So why not put most of your energy where you can have the greatest amount of benefit? You cannot have an effect if you do not have something to offer. I certainly cannot go to Mr. Mandela or Chief Buthelezi and say to them, I'm so intelligent, I want to show you how to solve the political problem of South Africa. Bring the clerk and I will teach all of you. This is nonsense. I can share what I have seen in the world. I can share the mistakes that the African American has made in America, some of which are beginning to take place in this country. I can share the lack of proper prioritizing that we did in America since 1908 until 1990. And as a result, today there is no black American leader that can go to any city in America and draw 20,000 people, regardless to the population, without a band and a group of celebrities to bring those people in, except Louis Farrakhan. There is no one. All of the names that you hear, including Jesse Jackson, cannot draw 20,000 people in any one city in America because the masses of people do not want to hear that tired rhetoric that they have heard for decades and decades, and nothing has changed in their life. The people are intelligent. The masses know when you're sincere and when you're pretending. And politicians have a tendency to become entrapped in ego massaging and beautiful headlines and beautiful speeches, and the people pay the price. We as professionals cannot change the defining characteristics of the politicians. But if we can demonstrate that we have a better way, not through speeches, but through demonstration, the politicians are smart enough, they will follow our lead. If we go to the townships and show that a group of people can start from scratch and develop a viable sub-economy that can blossom, the politician will be right behind you saying, please vote for me. Let me see how this is done. That's the nature of politics. But if we think we can just sit back and wait, if we think that we can be embarrassed over the fact that we are Muslims, it's the last thing we want to tell anyone. How are you? We want to tell them, well, we're fine, the children are fine, everything fine, but please don't mention those Assalamu alaikum, alhamdulillah, please. Wait till we get to the mosque. These people in the court, they won't understand. Right in the corridor, there's a judge, there's a judge. who do you think you're fooling? Do you really think that judge cares whether you're a Muslim or not? He has you are black. That's it. He doesn't make these distinctions, black Hindu, black Christian, black Muslims. Once he reaches black, that has said it all. We learned this in America. We thought at first it's because we didn't speak the language properly. We thought because we didn't have the right necktie. And we got the right necktie, we got the latest fashions, we were able to articulate and use lovely words. Didn't matter, we were still black. That's who you are. You are black people. And I'm happy for that. So the whites are not, they promised before. When the Asians came first in the 17th century, and then in 1860, as indentured and as merchants, they promised you, if you just stay away from those coffers, we have a special place. Now, you can never be like us, but we have an in-between place that's safe and sound, but just you have to stay away from them. We believed it, many of us, and we stayed away, and now the masses hate us. Do you blame them? Oh, we occasionally gave a little money. We said if there's going to be two parties, let's give a few dollars here and a few rand there just in case. People know, especially politicians. We are going to be judged by our deeds. Something I learned since I was here is amazing to me. This Quran in the United States probably cost about $40. When they told me that the Islamic propagation centers were selling this for 5 rand, I don't believe it. I said, how? If you're going to sell this for 5 rand, you must have sold 50 million last year. They said, no one wants it. The people won't buy it. I said, well, the poor people, maybe they can't even afford 5 rands. That may be different. But certainly, I know the professionals are buying them and giving them to employees and the clerks. They said, well, they say that's really not our job. Well, then what is your job? What are you here for? I want to know what your brief, verbal and written brief, is going to be on the day of judgment. I want to know what selection of words you're going to employ on the day of judgment to convince Allah that you have fulfilled your obligation to get involved in His work. I want to hear that brief. I want to be in the jury as an observer. When He simply tells the angels to bring the scales and to put the deeds on the scale and to put my word on the other scale. You think you can con Him? You think you can out-talk Him? What are you going to say? Let us, please permit me to be pedestrian. Let's forget the nonsense. And let's go back to our roots. And let's be real professional Muslims. Let's take these brothers from the township. Go on out. They're not going to kill you. And if they do kill you, it's better to die in the service of Allah than die in an automobile accident in the streets of Durban. Let's take a marketing enterprise, selling. The people in the townships have to eat, so they're going to buy food and clothes. Let's organize a sales force and supply them with foods and clothes and have a distribution business and lock up the country. There's nothing wrong with making money. You can be paid. I'm not asking you to donate this. Just give us deferred payment. Let us pay you after the first year. Then we'll pay you every year thereafter. Let us get a start. Let the merchants give us some fabric on consignment. We'll pay you. Let's set up the proper accounting controls. Let's train the brothers and still keep your professional practice. Let us alternate. I will take it one week, you will take it next week, but let's not be splintered. We have enough people here to take this whole area and make it viable, like the Japanese did, against all odds. But they didn't wait, sit back, make excuses. They said the time has come, get up and get involved. During the question and answer period, I hope I have an opportunity to give you some idea of what you can do not only in South Africa, but how it can impact on all of Africa. You can save this continent. You can do that. And if you do not do it, you're going to pay a price. And if you do not do it, you will pay an internal price and you will pay an external price. Because Israel is going to do it. While you are talking about Iraq and Kuwait, Israel is preparing tonight to dominate the economic distribution of all of Africa because they cannot survive by themselves. That small country gets $3 billion a year from America. And they're still a basket case economically. 3 billion. If there's a peace in the Middle East, the 3 billion will be eliminated. What will they do to survive? If you can't make it with 3.5 million people with $3 billion gift, how are you going to make it with nothing? There are no resources there. The Israelis are not crazy, they know that. So they say, just like the Pope, Africa is the hope. Our biggest fear is the Muslims. Because the Muslims have certain advantages. Most of Africa will be Islamic. We have an edge right now. If we don't let Islam become defiled, if we don't let our brothers in Africa become disappointed in us, if we don't let them become disillusioned, if we permit them to develop a consensus that we're not serious, we don't believe in them. I understand the history. I understand the caste system. I understand apartheid. But I do not understand not fulfilling the word of Allah. You are not going to tell Allah that hundreds of years ago I was a product of the caste system. Please forgive me. He will say, I forgive you, go to hell. The white people who are running the apartheid system promised me, and I just wanted it just a little longer. Then I was going to change. You go in these streets and stop the brothers, whether you know them or not, and say hello, assalamu alaikum. That is not going to hurt you. Stop them. They will be shocked, they will be startled, and they will be impressed. This is Islam. This is Islam. This is what distinguishes you from the apartheid Christian. This is what distinguishes you from the Zionist. Not your words, not the ceremony. It is your human relationship with your brother. That's the test of a Muslim. I'm going to stop, but I am not finished. Thank you very much for your time. And I look forward to the question and answer period. Ask anything you want. Don't hold back trying to protect me. Say, I would like to ask him, but I don't think it's appropriate for the occasion. I'm here for honesty and frankness. Anything you want. If I can't answer it, I'll tell you. I will try my best. That is why I'm here. Honestly, we are here to build a nation together, hand in hand, inshallah. Thank you very much. Allah is Samad.
I said in my initial welcome that I had the simplest of tasks tonight. It's actually now become the most difficult of tasks. It's difficult for this reason, that it's easy to say thank you for exposing to us the reality, the potential of Islam. Thank you for exposing to us a mirror of ourselves. Thank you for provoking us, for challenging us, for teaching us, for scolding us, and for guiding us. But at the same time, none of these will be enough, not for me and not for you. And just as Dr. Al Mansoor has been hard in that sense, but hard not just in a sense of hard for the sake of being hard, but hard to drive home a hard point and a hard reality. I also would like to be that hard and to say that it really is up to you now and up to me. If we want to be able to say to him eventually one day, thank you, it's what we will do with his words after listening to them this evening. Jazakallah. We will now break for supper, and after that we will continue.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmadu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem. Amma ba'd. After this sumptuous meal, we've all had there's a catastrophe. We have all had infused into us mental energy. We've been reinvigorated. We, I think, can think again from a deeper standpoint. We've been trained to analyze issues, to crystallize issues, to see the wood from the trees, to look at what is important, and then to set that, to look at that critically, and then question that if need be. We've reached that stage now. All of us have heard this brilliant and analytical lecture, deep perspectives, but the time has now come to crystallize the issues, to probe, to question, and hopefully this will lead us further. So I want all of us here to make a contribution and to put your questions, please. I invite questions from the floor. I don't believe that there is absolute unanimity on all the issues. There's probably broad consensus, but surely there must be questions. Suleiman Dangor.
The question may not be directly relevant to us, but since you have been speaking about the new order, and you said something about China, Japan, and Africa. Very recently, President Bush has been repeatedly speaking about the new order. And many of our newspapers, we've been reading about Global 2000 and the new economic order. Can you please explain?
Thank you very much. I think this is a very good question. I have to admonish you that when Mr. Bush talks about the New World Order, he does not have exactly in mind what you probably expect from the New World Order in South Africa or in the world of Islam. Let me tell you a rather dramatic and perhaps even a frightening fact. The same United Nations body that I have referred to that conducted the demographic studies into the population of the world in the next 60 years has indicated that in the next 60 years, in America, the white people will be a racial minority. And that throughout the world, the white race totally, from America and Europe, Australia and all other places in the world, will not exceed 8% of the total population. The countdown from that date until the date that white people become extinct is not a very pleasant notion if you are white. And it has caused some white people throughout the world to begin to pull their heads together because they do not want to disappear. They are studying more than any other time in history, the history of India. They are looking at the caste system because the caste system was initially designed to protect the physical integrity of the Aryans coming across the Himalayan mountains, where they encountered the Dravidians. The word for caste in Sanskrit means color. And the entire system was developed to convince the majority of the people that they should accept slavery gracefully, humbly, and with no complaints. And with all of the strategizing, and even the inclusion of Shiva as one of the gods, it was not completely successful. And if you do not believe me, look at the Brahmin class and see if they are pure Aryans. The numbers ratio is too small, but it was an effort. I would like to call your attention to a series of letters written by the former President of Russia, Mr. Brezhnev, to the then President of the United States, Mr. Nixon. And Mr. Brezhnev sent confidential letters. He said, Mr. President, we are being exploited by the third world over the Cold War issue. We are fighting each other, and we won the Second World War. And those who lost the war, namely the Japanese and the Germans, are rising to the top. If we can just develop enough trust between each other to dissolve the Cold War, invade China, we don't need the permission of anyone in the world. The world opinion is irrelevant. We will do what we want to do. This is Brezhnev. And the final statement is, after all, we are both white. After all, we are both white. Now, what Nixon could not afford to do, because at the time the letters were written, America's economy was fairly strong, and Russia's economy was not too bad. Nixon could not convince America, after so many years of criticizing Russia, that they should now be trusted. But during the days of Ronald Reagan, when the American economy started to decline, it was easier to digest the message. It is now a practical matter of survival. It's not a luxury. It's whether we want to survive or we do not want to survive. Economic. If we're going to fight the Japanese and the Germans, it must be economics. So now you see the disillusionment of the Cold War. Russia, you will not recognize it. America is in a state of decline and will continue to decline. Junk bonds everywhere, worthless. Even they had the audacity to call them junk. They were so arrogant. This was a junk bond, buy it. And through promotion, the junk bond, the savings and loans. I don't want to go into all the details, but just let me tell you the scheme behind it. When Milken stumbled on the idea of the junk bonds, he knew that he could not get people to buy the junk bond as junk. He needed someone to guarantee it, someone whose credentials were impeccable. So the savings and loans that were insured by the government became the target. So by taking the money of the depositors to buy the junk bonds, the depositors could always claim from the government, give me my money back. That's how billions of dollars people were buying. For instance, Nabisco was taken over, a company valued at $21 billion. Do you know how much money, cash money, was put in to take over 21 billion? The total amount of cash, 13 million. That's junk. This gave the Jewish community in America an opportunity they never had. The Jews were never able to control the Fortune 500 manufacturing sector of America. The Gentiles said, this is ours. Let the Jews have banking, let them have the movies, let them have the entertainment, but we will keep the major assets of production. But through leveraging junk, I'm not anti-Semitic. Who was Milken? Jew. Who was Boski? Jew. Who was Levin? Jew. Count the number of people involved in the junk bonds and those who were convicted. Now this is a fact. Now people will say this, you shouldn't mention it. They'll say you're anti-Semitic. If black people commit crimes, they say, look what the blacks did. I'm simply being consistent. The greatest nightmare that Mr. Bush has right now is how long he can keep this together without people really finding out. If you could see some of the inside information that I have seen, you would be frightened. America is on the threshold. Watch it for the next 8 years. Just watch the indicators. That's why the Japanese are pulling back. The United States sent soldiers to Saudi Arabia, and then they sent the Secretary of the Treasury and the Secretary of State, taking the crown jewels of the legitimacy of the government and sent them on a mission begging all over the world for money. A superpower? So in Europe now they laugh. When you mention, let's go to America, they laugh. So now there are people in the world who would like to take all of the assets of the Middle East, because the Middle East does not need junk bonds. The Middle East with oil can convert the oil into concrete assets, and Kuwait proved how to do it, professionally and expertly. There is no country in the Middle East that has today matched Kuwait for its acumen in business. No one. Don't tamper with your brains. That's why China would not invade Taiwan. Before, when they got caught up in political rhetoric, they started to. But they said, what are we going to do? This group of people from nothing have $60 billion surplus. Let them live. Let's find out how to share the knowledge. Now what is Taiwan doing? They're investing not in the United States, they're investing in mainland China. We must respect achievement and use it to bring a learning curve into our group. The New World Order that Mr. Bush is talking about is to simply survive. Europe is going to be ruled by the Germanics and the Slavs. That will be Europe. The Russians will provide the nuclear protection for Europe, and the Germans will provide the technology transfer, the expertise, the drive, the initiative, and the capital. Germany's paying Russia now $1 billion a year. Unification is not a secret. It was paid for. Gorbachev at first said, no way. We will never countenance the reunification of this menace. So the Germans start putting money. What do you mean? What about this? What about this? Gorbachev said, you know, this gentleman Kohl is not so bad. I think we can do business together. They forgot communism, socialism, all the isms for practicalism. Should this not be a lesson to us Muslims? We get involved in such pettiness, and we elevate it to the level of immutable intransigence in conflict, killing each other for nothing, while our enemies rejoice. The New World Order in Asia will result from Japan being restricted in Europe. The Germans and the Russians have agreed, in order to pacify the British and the French, whose economies are going to go down. That's not efficient enough. The Italians, the economies will go down. To pacify them and to give them hope that this reunification will be good for everyone, they told them that we will help restrict the Japanese involvement in Europe, because the British and the French, they cannot compete against the Japanese. So Russia has offered the Japanese the opportunity to invest in Siberia and the opportunity to invest in Mongolia. The Japanese want Mongolia because they said that they are Mongolian descent. They are very clever. And they know that all the Indians of Latin America are of Mongolian descent. The Japanese will leverage biological ties through the Mongolians into Latin America. Have you read about Mr. Alfredo Fujimori, who became the first Japanese Peruvian to become president of the country? As soon as he was elected, he went to Japan. And the Japanese said, my son, we will take care of you. There are 1 million Japanese in Brazil. The Japanese go to their brothers there and they say, all right, let us work together. Don't tell anyone, but quietly let us move. We don't do that. Our people don't want a Muslim lawyer. We want the best. We have a serious problem. If we have a traffic ticket, well, we'll go to the Muslims. Why? Because we've been brainwashed. And until we rediscover our history, we will always be brainwashed. Always. So you will suffer. I'm saying you have a selfish personal interest in seeing the liberation occur. Selfishly, you will grow. You will benefit for the new surge of pride. You will benefit from the new world order. There are certain people in South Africa who want to talk to me who are white. Why? Because correctly or incorrectly, they think that I may be a key to large funding from the Middle East. This is it. And some people in the Middle East have told them, this is the gentleman that we are going to rely on for the recommendation. So they're saying, please can we meet? The last time I was here, I shouldn't really tell you, you're going to tell everyone and they're going to get mad, but I'll tell you anyway. Some of the central bank said confidentially, let's sit and talk. And we don't need the others because we know that you're a businessman and you're very intelligent and you have so many credentials. Let's see what we can do to bring the Middle Eastern capital into South Africa. And I said, well, what about the Muslim community in South Africa? They would have more credibility than I. I am here as a stranger. They are here every day. If they collectively say to me, go ask the Middle East, it would give me more credibility. So I must talk to my brothers here to find out, is this the time? Is this the place? Is this the location? They started to clear their throats. They said, well, why do that? We thought that you could just by yourself. I said, no, I don't have that power. How could I, one person? This is not realistic. All right, I'm saying that this is the New World Order. If we're plugged in, but we must be professional. I can't tell the Middle East, yes, the Muslim community is ready, when we're not ready. Because they will lose money and then they will stop. And it will hurt us all. We must be the best. I don't want to be average. I don't want to be above average. I want to be the best. I don't want anyone to give it to me. I want to earn it. If it means staying up extra hours, let's stay up. We did this during school. We stay up for exams. We study. Why not now? That was preparation. How much more today to prove to the Middle East not to go begging every day, please help us. I'm a Muslim lawyer. I'm a Muslim businessman. I know you've come and you've helped the white people. You put money in the white banks. Why don't you show us? We show what we can do. And then you don't have to ask anyone. They will come to you, begging you to utilize your skills to do for them what you did for yourself. That's the New World Order. As white people see that they are going to become extinct, it's a frightening thing. After all of the years of Hitler and Nietzsche and studying the caste system, to come to the reality that I am actually going to disappear from this planet. The whites are the youngest on the planet. They're the youngest. They cannot trace their history back further than 6,000 years. We are talking about African people. We're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. The Stone Age artifacts were found in Zaire to be dated 2 million years ago. They are relatively young. They haven't been here very long. And for them to leave so abruptly is not at all flattering. So to extend their stay as long as possible, it's like a person with cancer. When the doctor tells you, sir, you have 1 year, your whole life jumps to the forefront of your mind. 1 year. Let me hug my kid. Let me hug my wife. All of those things that I neglected in the past, let me make up. 1 year. It's a sobering thought. And they have decided that the only way to buy more time is to adopt the practice of the caste system. They must convince you that you want to be ruled by them. No more guns. Guns are obsolete. Bombs are obsolete. It's the battle of the mind. They must enter your mind through any myth, through any story, through any distortion, through any misinformation, and convince you that they are fit to rule and you are not. They must divide us. Asians against Africans, against Japanese. And in that context, the Russians told the Japanese, you can invest. The Japanese said, well, if you're going to freeze us, we want you to push India into the Asian bloc. Right now, India is dependent on Russia, the currency, the trade, everything. And they would like to free that relationship because I see Russia going down to hook up with the West. The West will never have India. There may be some things where India has a competitive advantage, but generally, you think that the West is going to let India dump products into Europe? Forget it. So Japan said, push India into the Asian bloc. What does that mean? That it means that Asia has somewhere around 4 or 5 billion people. And Japan starts to smile. They say, all right, you people in Europe, do the best you can. Just leave me alone in Asia. So China will provide the nuclear military protection so that no one gets fancy ideas. And Japan will provide the technology transfer, the capital, the robotics, and China will be producing goods cheaper than anyone can match in the world. It's a new world order, and already the Japanese are orchestrating. They're devising certain products to be made in Malaysia, certain products to be made in Indonesia, so they don't compete against each other, so that the Asian is one big family. We have to be modern. That's what we must do in Africa. Get this problem in South Africa settled so we can move on to bigger things. The television will be your enemy. What I call psychological existential hedonism. These programs will hit you more powerfully than a nuclear bomb. They're going to divide your families. They're going to corrupt your children. They're going to create dissensions and tensions in a manner and in a degree that you have never expected in your life. We went through it. You will have drug problems. You will have alcohol problems. You will have nicotine problems. Everyone making excuses. Well, nothing wrong with cigarettes. Go to the mosque and smoke a cigarette. You're not going to do it, so why are you going to do it outside the mosque? You will be programmed to buy products that have no relevance to economic development, while the Japanese save 20% of every dime they make. So the banks are flush with cash so that they can support an economic development, and we are begging because all of our money went on the fancy tennis shoes. This is the black American. We have passing through our hands in America $200 billion a year. Black Americans. 200 billion, and we're at the bottom of the heap with nothing. Do you realize that 50% of every black female who graduates from college in the United States is on the poverty line? 50%. Defined as having 4 persons with an income of $12,000 or less. And over 25% of the black males. Why? Because of racism? No. Because the courses they majored in. If you major in education and psychology and sociology and black studies, where are you going to work? You must major in business and accounting and computers. The Asians are not unemployed. The Chinese American is not unemployed. The Japanese American is not unemployed. And the black should not be unemployed. But the black leadership has been the most degrading in history. And if we are not careful, we will be the same. You can't tell your sons and daughters, just major in what you like, whatever way you feel. We want to recognize the individuality, the personality. This is crazy. You have to explain to your children where the demands are, what the trends are. But if you don't know yourself, how can you tell them? You must read. You must read to understand the world. While you are reading, you are able to develop a protection for your children so that you can resist the brainwashing. The media is coming to take your mind. Your biggest protection is reading and Ramadan. Reading and Ramadan. Because during Ramadan, you don't eat from sunup to sundown. And your body starts saying, we want food. And it gets louder and louder and louder. You are in business, you know so many days you have missed a meal. In the morning, you have rushing. I can't miss this appointment. You run to court, you miss a meal. On Ramadan, the first day, the first 5 minutes, the first minute, you know it is Ramadan. Because your body, Shaitan, is saying, you don't have to do it. That's old-fashioned, that's antiquated, that's for silly people. That's for fundamentalists, that's for fanatics. And besides, if you're sick, you don't have to observe Ramadan. So you start feeling the pain. It's the emotions trying to trap you. But as your mind says, Allah, I have promised you, and if I can't keep my word to you, who can I keep it? Then your strength starts to develop. And your emotions become controlled, and your mind and your spiritual component become stronger and stronger. That's the genius of Ramadan. There's no religion in the world that has it but us. And Allah did it for us, so that we wouldn't fall into the trap of Adam and Eve, our ego. If we can control our emotions, then when people start flattering us and trying to divide us, our mind draws on that strength and says, no, 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 no. Allahu Akbar. Then you come back to yourself and you say, yes, that's right. Let me follow the straight path. So Ramadan is not because we're going to magnify Allah. Ramadan is designed by Allah to help us live the balanced life. You have to observe it. And don't change the hours and just stuff yourself after the sun goes down. You defeat the purpose. Eat and eat and eat. People gain 10, 20, 30 kilos during Ramadan. The purpose of Ramadan is self-denial, to build your strength, to give you strength to overcome cigarettes. If you don't have to have cigarettes from sunup to sundown, you don't need them at all. If you don't have to have alcohol from sunup to sundown, you don't need it at all. This is the genius of Islam. 5 rands and we won't take it. We pass it to our brothers. Just a simple act, birthday. Even for Christmas, Sunday, they need it. Some of the whites, when they see they're disappearing, they're going to react emotionally. This can help them. Because in Islam we have no race. So they don't have to worry about disappearing. It doesn't matter because we're all one race from the Creator, don't worry. One tribe. We tell the Zulu, the Hoshia, all of them, we're one tribe. Muslims. We have an answer to tribalism, the negative aspect. The Quran says that Allah made the tribes and the nations so that they might we might know each other. So I don't want to destroy the tribes. I don't want to eliminate the tribe. I want to melt the tribe into a larger family. That's what Shaka did. Shaka had 1,500 people in 1816. That was the extent of the Zulu nation. In 1828, there were over 1 million. This was not population growth. It was the man's genius to marry tribes together, say, listen, forget the differences. We're coming one family now. We're moving to become one family. That's what Islam is. We're saying to the whites, that's for you. You don't have to derive your pride from being white alone. You've done wonderful things as whites. Take pride in that. But in addition to that, you have done wonderful things and will continue as human beings. Come join the only religion that permits an orderly, functional brotherhood at every level. So give this to the white people and tell them it's going to help you. That's the New World Order. That's what we must prepare for. Computers, we must have it. You must tell your children, learn the computer. All the different dimensions, the D-base, the applications, the multimedia functions, learn it. Learn the mapping from the satellite, because I can take the satellite mapping data and tell you there's gold over there, or there's oil over there, or don't waste your time, there's nothing there. This is today's world. Infrared capability from the satellite. But in South Africa, we are not becoming engineers. A few, but we're staying away. In Japan, 60%, because that's where the future is. So you have to begin to reorientate your children. How do you do it? You, professionals, go take an engineering course. Go take a computer course so your children see it and they say, this must be important. You can't buy a computer and just give to your children and say, go to the room and be by yourself. You are the leader. You are the leader. By demonstration, we participate in the New World Order. This is, please let me just re-emphasize, this is our day. This is what our people suffered for and died for. The prospects of being major planners in the ultimate stage of mankind's development. If we do not prepare ourselves, there will still be Muslims. 50% of the world will still be Muslims by the year 2050, but it will be an empty Islam. We will be trading phrases. We will be attending wedding ceremonies. We will be talking about the Arabic language, but the substance will be gone. We will pray 5 times, we may even pray 15 times, but the essence of Islam would have been lost within the tyranny of ceremony. This is not the life of the Prophet, peace be upon him. He was a doer. Whether he built mosques or led the troops or gave the message or recited the message, he said we must get involved. Each one of us. That is the challenge of the New World Order for South Africa, for Africa, and the entire world. It is ours for the asking, but we must pay the price. Sacrifice, discipline, efficiency. Don't be late all the time. Don't say, well, I did my best. No excuses. Program your life. Adhere to the program. Respect your word and your commitment. And let us have another question. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Brother Qasim. Alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah. But I've not actually come to question you. We have speak some language which no one can question. I don't think many of us will question you. But actually what I've come to do here is to agree and approve your stand. Say that you have brought us a message which we need, which we've been waiting for. I suggest that, brother, before you go back, you must arrange the program for us. With you, we move to the location, to the homeland, as we have mentioned, because, brother, I say this because when you move, when you go here, no one is going to do it. We didn't do it because we didn't have the knowledge of doing it. Know-how is very important, but we didn't have this kind of knowledge or caliber. But although among my brothers we've got a learned personality such as Professor, as on my left hand, both of them, they are here from University of Westville. They were also in port. I remember my Professor Salman, he came in 1974 when we were at Asalam. When he came down here, we were in dark, all of us, Asian and colored and also black, like me. But when he comes, he's give a light as you see the light, because of his knowledge. But he was limited because government of this country didn't allow him to go to the location. Yeah. The laws was also a problem. Sure. But now I think with you, brother, we will be coming from black, and then Salman and Professor Abu Al-Haq, they will be moving from Asian, and then we meet in between. I invite you, not only you, but all the scholars of my community from Nigeria, all over Africa and Europe, come down, brothers.
Well, I have to tell you that we have been thinking since my last visit of something that can be done practically. I am a practical man. I like dreams, but I don't like nightmares. So I prefer visions. But if a vision is not implemented, it becomes empty. So I, by temperament and training, do not like to make promises and then not fulfill them. So I'm not going to make to you, Brother Qassam, a promise tonight, other than to tell you that we are, in our group in America, studying a specific series of economic programs for South Africa. We need input, and many of the brothers here that you see tonight have been helping us crystallize our ideas. I don't want to go to the homeland and announce a lot of things and then find out that I am off base. So I've been talking here and asking questions in order to more crystallize our program. We do have a program, and we intend to launch that program, and we intend to utilize the brothers here to be a part of that program, and we intend that this program be effective for the masses of people in Africa, and we intend to link that program with the African American and the European American in America. We have in mind an export program that will earn foreign exchange, that will recycle a network. We don't want everyone to know our plans because we don't want them to try to stop us. So we are planning, my brother. We are thinking seriously and carefully. I cannot tell you when we are ready, but I am encouraged that we're getting close. From the statements that I am getting from the Muslim businessmen here, they are telling me that we are on the right track. They are telling me that there's potential for this idea, and they are telling me that it is sound, and they are telling me they want to become involved. So we, at the first instance, must do our homework. We cannot make a mistake. We cannot afford, because the people will never forgive us. We can't tell them that we tried, we were enthusiastic, but after 6 months, we were too busy, the children got sick, one mother died, we had to go. In the minds of the people, my people in Africa, they're going to say this is another one of those liars. They have heard every creative excuse in the world. So they are expecting failure. Even when you say we're going to do this and this and this, they're waiting there, and after you finish, they look at each other and nod. They don't believe it. They've seen too much. I don't want to make promises. I want to go and do it with you so that the people will say we saw it for ourselves. I have not forgotten you. My people in America have not forgotten you. We want to develop a program. We have already started. We're going to continue to start, but this is not my program. This is a Muslim program for the people of South Africa. And we must all contribute to the success of that program. We are planning in the near future to send a delegation from the African American Islamic community who are marketing and accountants who will come here to further refine the ideas to make sure we have not made a mistake. And only after we are convinced that we will not fail our people, we will march on the economic jihad in South Africa. Yes, sir.
My question is based on the question of saying that because we understand that in this country and all over the world that we are politically oppressed and socially exploited and degraded. And I understand that all over the world the masses of those countries are suffering. Right? What you're saying is very good and it's very nice, but we only speak about the masses who suffer under all the system of this country. And also the question of the new order. The question of the new order is very contentious because I don't know whether, are you saying that we should work within the system which is unjust in this country and the system which is unjust all over the world? The people in Israel, the people in South Africa, people over the world are crying out, and the countries that I've mentioned, America, Japan, and all those countries are the countries that exploit our people. Look at the whole continent of Africa. It's been destabilized and been oppressed and done everything that is bad to all those African states. So what is the solution towards that? Because the problem that you have at hand is a problem of exploitation and a problem of oppression. Yes, you can spread this down, but it exploits a man up to the bottom. So what is the solution towards that?
Very good question. On one occasion, a very sincere brother, I believe he was from Iran, took this holy book to Stalin. He was very sincere. And he said to Mr. Stalin, forget communism. Forget socialism. It will never work. If you want to be successful, take this book and implement the tenets of this book in the 6,616 arats, and you will be successful. Stalin looked at the man. He didn't want to hurt his feelings. And he said, since my time is limited, and since you are convinced that this book is the model, show me anywhere in the world this book has been implemented, then I will know what to do. I will go to that country and see for myself. Everywhere I go, I hear people saying the exploited and the exploitor. I am not always convinced what this language means, because if I take my hand and dig in the ground, I'm exploiting my hand. If exploitation means the utilization of an event for a desired goal, I am doing that every time I breathe. And every time I eat, I take poisons into my body. Am I exploiting the chicken? Am I exploiting the vegetables? In one sense of the word, I am using the vegetables. And in one sense of the word, the vegetables are using me. They are using my system. They are decomposing and composing. For me, the question is not exploitation and non-exploitation. The question is, what is unreasonable and unjust exploitation? How, if I hire you for $100,000 an hour, am I exploiting you? The going wage is $2 an hour. I'm giving you $100,000 an hour for your work. Am I exploiting you in one sense? Yes. I'm using your labor. Is it an unjust exploitation? Most people would say no. Perhaps it is. Because perhaps the $1,000 will corrupt you. Perhaps the $1,000 will cause you to lose your faith. Perhaps the $1,000 will cause you to become an alcoholic. I can't make that judgment. What I must do is determine in a context what is a reasonable wage for a reasonable service. I look at both sides of the coin. I see people who take wages and they don't work. Who exploits whom? They sign a statement saying, I will work 8 hours a day. And they get the top wage. I'm not talking about the history of the mining industry in South Africa. I'm not talking about the history, the agriculture history in South Africa. I'm talking about a person with a job when the wage utilizing the prevailing standards is deemed to be fair. The person comes late every other day. The person doesn't work. And they tell their friends, we don't want to be exploited. We don't have to do all of this. Who exploits who? Who decides? And when do we know the exploitation process is terminated? And I don't mean this as a semantical statement. I'm saying it's a very serious statement. Because if you ask the Japanese people tonight who are working in factories, who work for nothing, they have retired. They do not have to work anymore. They have reached the level of retirement, and they learn that their factory is competing against the Americans and against the Germans. They go back to their employer and they say, please, I want to work. We're not going to be beat. We are Japanese. Is he exploited when the employer says yes? How do we determine? Who determines? If you ask the Japanese people the move that they have made, I am very familiar with Japan. And if you ask them, are you exploited? You will hear them say, no, this is our country. We are building our people. We are making sacrifices for the Japanese, and we know what we are doing. And we may deny ourselves for 1 generation or 2 generations. Well, we will never again have an atomic bomb dropped upon us. We are Japanese. And that was the power. The Japanese save 20% of every dime they make. Is that exploitation? And they give it to the banks. And they say, banks, we trust you to use this money wisely. That's why the first 12 banks in the entire world are all Japanese. In the top 20 banks in the world, there's not one Arab bank. There's not one Islamic bank. The first 12 are all Japanese. How did they accomplish that? Ask the people. Ask the people if they would like to change that. Some of these people work for almost nothing. But they said, I am committing my trust that my people will not betray me. And ask them now, do you feel betrayed when they have one of the highest standard of living in the world? The Japanese people say no. I'm saying exploitation does take place. But sometimes we use exploitation as an excuse to do nothing. I want to know what is required. Let me give you an example. I have a very dear, close friend from Ethiopia. The government of Ethiopia took over their family jute business. That's the only way they had to make money. That's all they knew. It's been in the family for several generations. The Ethiopian government took this Muslim business and said, it is ours. These two brothers left the country and went to Italy. And they worked in a furniture factory, getting virtually no wage at all. They saved pennies. On one occasion, one of the brothers traveled to Nigeria. And some of the Nigerian Muslims say, what are you doing all the way in Italy? Why don't you come here? What do you know how to do? He said, the only thing I know how to do, my brother, is a jute factory. They said, fine, we will put up all the money. You come here and run the jute factory. He said, I will do it on one condition. I will never pay a bribe. That's against my religion. Anyone that tells you that they do not pay bribes in Nigeria, you have to research it very carefully. Ask anyone in Nigeria today about the Nasruddin brothers, and they will tell you these Muslims have never paid a bribe. Did they sacrifice? Yes. Did they pay a price for their beliefs? Yes. Would it have been easier to just pay the bribes? Yes. But what has occurred from them not paying a bribe and taking that job in a factory, making almost nothing? In Nigeria, this very night, they employ 6,000 Nigerians. Two brothers can employ this night close to 20,000 people. Starting from nothing, we have no excuse. So I don't want to get involved in the isms, in the language, in the exploitation. I want to work. When I went to undergraduate school, I used to wait tables for $2.50 a day, when the wage at that time, the minimum wage, was about $2.50 an hour. I could have said, no, I'm not doing it. The judgment I had to make is that is my education more important than a little starvation? And I decided that I wanted my education. When I went to law school, I was the only black American in my class. Everyone was white. The assistant dean of the college came to me the first week and he told me, you black man will never graduate from this college. You're wasting your time. Never. And he said, I don't hate you. I'm just telling you this because I don't want you to waste your time. Take something that can be a benefit. Go into education. Go into something that will help you. I said, Allah, I don't want to ask the dean. I'm asking you. Did you give me the ability to read these books? I don't care how long it takes. Did you give me the ability? And if you gave me the ability, I will never let you down. Again, mop floors in the kitchen. Some of my friends today refuse to do it. Some of them are in a penitentiary. Some of them are on welfare. Some of them are pitying themselves with alcohol and drugs because they said, I will never mop that white man's floor. I said, is this undignified? What is wrong with mopping the floor? My father mopped floors. He mopped floors so that I could have an opportunity to go to college. Why should I not mop the floor so that I can graduate from that college? I owe that to my father. And I was the best floor mopper at Epworth Hall. And I graduated. And then I went back into the community. And we began to train people to become engineers and doctors and lawyers. We had a lady with 8 children, Sister Audrey Guess, 8 children. And she worked at night in the post office. And she developed an appreciation for her roots. She began to read about Timbuktu. She began to read about the pyramids. She began to read about the blast furnaces that were developed right north of here. And this lady fired and said, I am able. And I want you to know that she graduated #1 in her class at San Francisco State College. Sister Elsie Maddox was a maid all of her life. She never graduated from high school. She got an A grade in statistics. She now has a master's degree because she refused to make excuses. People from Vietnam came to America. They couldn't speak the language. The black Americans laughed at them. Look at these Vietnam with their funny faces, and they can't even speak the language. They must be crazy. And they were selling popsicles in the park and selling sandwiches in the park. The black Americans said, we're not going to do it. That's degrading. Now the Vietnamese are at the tops of the classes. And there are more black Americans in the penitentiary than there are in the university in America. Who exploited whom? The Vietnamese said, let us come and analyze the system. Let us find out where our advantage is and where our disadvantage is. Let's forget the crutches and the self-pity, and let's get together and work. That's what our foreparents did. That's why Timbuktu existed. That's why Shaka existed. Read his history. What was the discipline that he employed upon his warriors? What was the training program that he required of his warriors? Discipline, sacrifice, based upon a plan of action. I'm saying with all the problems that exist in South Africa, the Asian community came here, and what they did is remarkable. Let's forget the nonsense. These people could have made 1,000 different excuses and given up and gone back to Pakistan or gone back to India and said we tried our best, but the racism is too great. They made a decision that they were going to stay. Whatever it took. Yes, they accepted abuse. Yes, they abided their time. Yes, they looked for openings in the university. And they have developed a niche in the country. I'm saying to my black African brothers, we have the numbers. We are the majority. But unless we are prepared to pay the price, we will become like many African countries on this continent. There's a price to be paid for leadership. We need rallies right now all over South Africa. We need to bring our youth into the stadiums and preach education. There will be enough political speeches. Who will inspire our youth to learn? Who will give the concrete? All of our brothers that dropped out for the boycotts today are functionally illiterate. Who is going to provide for them? The politicians, the speeches, the language? It will not. We are talking about the values of our ancestors. We are not weak people. We are not losers. We are not people who give up. If we were, we would have never made it to America. We were sold as slaves from this continent. Don't tell me about exploitation. From this continent. But we did not give up. We invented the traffic light. We invented the gas mask. We invented over 300 uses for the sweet potato and the peanut. We designed Washington, D.C. We performed the first medical heart operation in America. Dr. Daniel Hale Williams in 1893. We did not let slavery rob us of our dignity. And we will never be slaves again. Because we are prepared to work and to fight. Work and to study and to share with our people and to build our people. And that's why I'm here. I can give a political speech, but it will create nothing. When I'm finished, people may feel good, they will still have the same unemployment. We need a value return to our ancestors. The people of Timbuktu that devised the way to sail from West Africa to Mexico before Columbus was ever thought of. We did that. What are we doing today? Marcus Garvey owned the shipping line in 1920. What are we doing today? The brother recognized the importance of his heritage. And he said, I cannot help my people unless I become a model. And he sacrificed his life. Malcolm X sacrificed his life. They wanted to show our people here, we can do it. But it is work and no excuses. We have the ability from Allah. But if we devise only political jargon, nice phrases and isms here and isms there, this is not the world of reality. We need 2 million jobs. If you have a bloodbath in this country, no one will invest in this country and we will go to the Stone Age. This country cannot make it without outside foreign investment. It is no way. And no one's going to invest if they don't see stability, and neither would you. If you see a group of people fighting on the corner, you're not going to go and say, well, let me give you some money, brothers, and see how you can use this money to bring back return. You say, let me get as far away from that as I can. This is human life. It has nothing to do with race. It has to do with performance. So we are saying, as Africans, we must get beyond the rhetoric. The Christian told us, wait till we die and go to heaven. After we go to heaven, God will take care of us. The communist said, we're going to use a dialectic materialism to evade metaphysics and utilize science to devise our world. And Khrushchev now is saying that's nonsense. That's nice to let people talk about. They're nice slogan. Khrushchev says we've been exploited. Karl Marx said we've been exploited. But you know what Karl Marx said in his diary? He said, Lascelles is an oblong, kinky-headed nigger. He wrote it in German until he got to the word nigger. He wrote that in English so his friend, Mr. Engels, would know he meant nigger. But we are still running around saying, yes, the Marxist solution. What did the man think of us? Ask the African students who went to Moscow how they were treated. We cannot look for dreams. There is no ism in this world that will make this country a model for all of Africa. It is planning and thinking and working and sacrifice just what our ancestors did. Show me any country in the world that was able to avoid that process. Show me any country you like that's not exploited so we can imitate that country. Life is continual exploitation. We just want to make sure that it is not unreasonable and unjust. But making a sacrifice doesn't mean it's unjust. But we should have an input into decision making. But don't develop a nation of politicians. We need a nation of workers and thinkers and planners. Most of our workers. Yes, sir.
Just a comment. What you say, actually, the definition of an exploitation is very superficial. Because now...
Could you speak louder, sir? We hear you.
Actually, the definition of exploitation from your perspective is very superficial. Because you understand that the system in which we are living under here is very exploiting our people at large.
What do you mean by exploitation?
Actually, if now you have to take into consideration, like for instance, you say that now it's only a mutual relationship whereby people just come and ask work. And actually, if you look at the system that exploits, it's a system that exploits. It's a system that makes us to be...
Right, let me ask you this. Let me just ask you this. What system in the world do you like? What system would you like to see in this country so I can get an idea? Instead of us just defining exploitation, because we could go on forever, give me some system that you have seen anywhere that you would like to be employed here so I get a better feel for what you see as the best economic, political, social arrangement for the betterment of the people of this country, because both of us are committed to that.
If I have to respond to that, actually, if you look at the system, here in this country is a capitalist system. As you say, other people say that now, capitalism would work, there isn't.
But can I just ask you to give me, let's forget this system. Give me one you like. You don't like this one. Give me one you like.
Actually, what I'm saying that now in the nutshell is that now, if you look at all this, right, actually it's now can able to work, right? It's now
Brother, could you just give me one system that you like?
The system that I like is the system of socialism.
Where? Where?
Socialism.
Yeah, which place can I go and see the system that you like?
Actually, if you look at, I cannot give you a model of the country where the system is working. Because if you look at those countries who claim to be socialist, we find only the revisionists in those countries. You look at Russia, we've got Gorbachev, which is moving towards capitalism, which is a revisionist.
Why are they making the change?
It's because of bourgeois tendencies. It's
because the socialism didn't work.
No, they're working on their interests.
Czechoslovakia, Hungary says no. Poland says no. Russia says no. You can't ignore history. They tried their best and they didn't work. Show me one place that worked.
In China, it worked during Mao.
China says today they're going to put in a stock market. Show me how you can have a stock market under socialism.
But now, if now we speak about China now under Deng Xiaoping and his company, those are nothing else than revisionists who claim to be socialist.
Brother, if everyone has changed, what you have to do is ask. If only half changed, you can say, well, those half were misled. If a third changed, you can say, those third were misled. They tried their best, but they became corrupt. But if 100% change, you have to honestly, in the name of your people, you have to find out and explore, is what you would like to see possible? If it's not possible, you cannot give people dreams. All I'm saying, if you find this system and let's study it and analyze, if it works, I'll join you. But if I can show a system that works and the people approve, will you join me? Either way, we must work. Yes.
If you look at most of the writings that have been published,
I can't hear you.
If now you look at most of the people who compare Islam and socialism, right? If you look at the facets of Islam and the facets of socialism, they can actually, they are tantamount. And I think under a socialist country, so Islam can be propagated because Islam is just the same. It just can work under that system. Very simple. Under a capitalist system, it cannot work because it exploits.
What you're raising now, you're raising a different question. You're saying that Islam and socialism are compatible. This is not the issue. The issue is, if no one has been ever able to make socialism work after all of these years, why waste your time? You have to, with the limited time you have to think not just about dreams. The people cannot eat dreams. They're not going to eat socialism. The people are waiting desperately for a plan and some model to help them move. So we are saying we owe it to the people to go throughout the world and examine all the systems we can, and then look at those that seem to be the best, tell the people, and let the people decide. And if the people decide that there is a system that they prefer, don't get mad at them and call them names. Don't do what Stalin did and kill almost 20 million people because they didn't want it. Don't do what Mao Tse-tung did. Some say he may have killed 50 million people because the people said, we don't want this. Be honest enough after you have done all the research and you have presented all of the data, let the people decide. Whichever way. If they say, I like this brother, I want that system, I will join you. I will not be recalcitrant. I will not say, no, if you don't use my system, I'm not going to do anything but fight. What I'm promising you is that we both get a chance to explain our system to the people. We both get a chance to show the people where the systems have been tried. And then we let the people decide, and whatever they decide, let's join our hands together as brothers and work to implement the desires of the people. Is that fair? Alhamdulillah. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Walaikum salam.
I asked my question as a student and not as a critic. The thing is that in the past 1400 years, we have been propagating Islam and the system of Islam. Now, can you tell me why we don't have an ideal system yet in any country or any part of the world?
I think this is a very good question, and I congratulate for this question, because it is not fair for me to ask for a perfect model of socialism if I cannot find a perfect model of Islam. Because the people are saying to me and to you, where is your model? And I cannot say to them, the Japanese are getting ready to consider adopting Islam as their system, and they would not do that if they did not think that Islam was the best. That's encouraging, but that's not good enough. Because the Japanese are not where they are today because they followed intentionally an Islamic model. The best and most effective operation of Islam occurred during the operation in the life of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. And he gave us a model and a plan. And for a few hundred years, that plan was implemented and became very successful. Let me share with you just a few books. There is a book that I strongly urge for all of you called Christianity, Islam, and the Negro Race. This book was written by Edward Blyden, who was born in the Caribbean, in the West Indies. And at a very early age, he proved to be a child prodigy. He seemed to learn things very quickly without any difficulty. The Christian missionaries sent him to the United States to give him a chance to really develop his mind. When the white Christian missionaries saw this black face, they said, "We are sorry. There is no way that we can permit you to sit in a classroom with whites. You must leave." Rather than send him back to the Virgin Islands and be embarrassed, Mr. Edward Blyden was sent to Liberia, where he did get his long-awaited education. And the predictions regarding his precocious powers proved to be correct. And he learned Latin, he learned Greek, he learned French, and he learned Arabic. He traveled to the Middle East speaking Arabic and scolding the Arabs for using too many colloquialisms in the language. He said, "You have a beautiful language, why have you corrupted it?" He became the Secretary of State in Liberia. I'm speaking now of the period of 1890. His responsibility was to travel throughout West Africa and look for what we are talking about tonight, to look for a perfect model that he could implement in Liberia, in Africa, for his people. He said that through the years, he was able to determine a Christian village from a Muslim village, and this man, at the time he wrote the book, Islam, Christianity, and the Negro Race, was a Christian. He said if the village was illiterate, it was a Christian village. If the village could read, it was a Muslim village. If the village was plagued with unemployment and laziness and no desire for economic progress, waiting for someone to do something for them, that was a Christian village. If the people were energetic and involved in trade, that was a Muslim village. He said if the people were unethical in the sense of adultery and in the sense of drunkenness, that was a Christian village. He said if they were not, it was a Muslim village. He said that if people had no racial pride, if they felt inferior, that was a Christian village. If they had a sense of pride, that was a Muslim village. Now this is Mr. Edward Blyden, who compared the systems of Africa in his day, and his conclusion was, as late as 1890, the Muslim answer to the economic, political, social structure of African villages was the best. We have slipped since that time. We have slipped. Colonialism has played a part. Divide and conquer has played a part. The attempt to brainwash us and control our minds has played a part. But I am convinced that we can go back to Timbuktu. We can go back to Liberia and look at the results. We can go back to Mecca and look at the results. And I am suggesting that we experiment with these proven models until someone can show us a better one. Ladies and gentlemen, I have not given any of the remarks that I will give on Wednesday evening. This was specially for the business community. On Wednesday, I have a different topic. Christianity, Islam, and communism. Who holds the key for a prosperous South Africa? I have to warn you, if you are timid and weak of heart, do not come. I don't recommend aspirins, but you may need plaster of Paris to put around your heart to keep it from flying away. It will be hot, heated. This is mild. I'm saving. Every time I started to tell you some of the things I was going to say on Wednesday, I held back. I said, no, Khalid, don't do that. Don't think that by coming tonight, you do not need to come on Wednesday. This was for business people and professionals. Wednesday is for the masses. I want you to bring the Christians. Why not? We want to talk. This is our country. We must plan together. We're not going to fight. We are intellectuals. Bring the Christians. Bring the Hindus. Bring the Muslims. Bring the communists. Bring all of the tribes. I need them for my biological and collective unconscious. Because I have in me the blood of every tribe in Africa. I am biological Pan-Africanism. I want to on Wednesday tell you about the Africans, about 3 million, who over the years went to Pakistan. Most of them are living in Karachi. I want to tell you about these brothers. It's an amazing story. I may even tell you about the Karanga tribe in Zimbabwe that discovered that they have been Muslims for hundreds of years and they lost the terminology. Wednesday night in the old pedestrian language, this is not lawyer language, you should never repeat this. Wednesday night will be a monster, inshallah. Thank you very much.
The driver of Honda Ballard ND 47841, would you please remove your vehicle? It's causing an obstruction. Now we come to the close of tonight's session. I will call upon Advocate Hafiz Abu Bakr to deliver a vote of thanks.
Brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As in all vote of thanks, it's always customary to summarize the presentation of the guest first. And I must say, Dr. Khalid, that your panoramic and exquisite presentation covering various continents and summary would have been otherwise difficult to summarize had it not been that it dealt within the parameters of Islam. And such is the beauty of Islam that it can be summarized in 4 points. One, by a verse from the Holy Quran. 2, by a saying of the Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. 3, by a saying of a great companion of the Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wassalam. And 4, by a very exquisite incident. The first one, the Quran summarized this by saying, وَأَن لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. Man is nothing but what he strives for. And you had dealt with that very beautifully on the concept of labor and effort being the key component to prosperity and success. Second, the saying of our Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam that worship constitutes 10 parts. 9 parts of which is trade, economic power. And thirdly, by the saying of Abu Zar, a great companion of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, who said, when poverty enters the house, religion leaves from the back door. And lastly, by this example of a man who came to the great Imam Muhammad Baqir, the descendant of the Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, and he complained of poverty. So Imam Muhammad Baqir said to him, would you exchange the use of your hands for 10,000 dirhams? He said, no, certainly not. He said, would you exchange the use of your feet for 10,000 dirhams? He said, no, never. He says, would you exchange the use of your eyes for 10,000 dirhams? He said, never. So he said, would you exchange the use of your brains for 20,000 dirhams? The man said, never. So Imam Muhammad Baqir said to him, I don't understand you. What gratitude do you demonstrate to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you value yourself in excess of 50,000 dirhams and yet you complain of poverty? So you have put it very beautifully that no man has excuse. If Allah has given him brains, He's given him arms and legs and hands and feet, he has to start from sacrifice and discipline to create for himself a role model in the way the Nabi Muhammad ﷺ had set an example to all of mankind. That's the key component, and you have demonstrated this most exquisitely, and we want to thank you for it. I would also like to thank, on behalf of Amal, to the IPCI for the arrangements to have brought you here, to Mr. Ahmed Didat, to Ibrahim Lockhart, to the Secretariat of Amal, Sister Shaida and Brother Dawood Desai. Also to the organizing committee, to the Manjra family, to the Orient Institute, to all the sisters and all those present. You have heard a lot of speeches and addresses this evening, so I would like to just complete with some housekeeping notes, and that is to make the announcement that Dr. Khalid Al Mansoor will also be addressing a public lecture organized by the Women's Cultural Group at the Truro Hall in Westville at 8 p.m. on Thursday, 18th October. And there's also one final announcement. This is also for an address by our guest speaker, and this is at the Department of Islamic Studies, and the topic is the Palestinian cause and international law. This is on Tuesday, 16th October. The time is 10:45 to 12 noon. The venue is L18 Tower Block. I'm sure at some stage you might be able to get further details. With these words, may we conclude with a short dua. Al-Fatiha. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد وبارك وسلم اللهم ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
I would like to see Mr. de Klerk gather them together, black and white, Bishop Tutu, everyone, come together and repent for lying on God. Now, I would ask you as a Christian, one who proclaims and professes to have met Jesus, how are you and your people going to develop 2 million jobs for the country? All right. How are you going to stop making the Pope white, Mary white, Jesus white, Moses white when they were not white? When and where are you going to develop a mass education program and not tell the people to wait till they get to heaven? When are you going to tell the man with 47 cars to sell those cars and give that money back to the poor people so that they might have a decent life? When are you going to repent on behalf of the Christians for enslaving the people, the descendants of whom are in this building tonight? When are you going to repent for causing the slaves to be prostitutes? When are you going to repent and ask forgiveness? When are you going to ask the white people to give back at least half of the 87% of the land that they stole in view of the fact that the Bible said, thou shalt not steal? When are you going to persuade your Christian white brothers to not control 95% of every asset in this country? And finally, when are you going to persuade the white people to give to the Tswana tribe all the Kimberly property that was the birthplace of all of the diamonds, and give them an accounting for all the money due to them? When?
I have not studied much, but what I do know, I have met Jesus.
Thank you
And
very
I
much.
know he has changed my life.
So you don't want to answer the question?
That he will change many other
Thank
people
you, sir.
if accept him.
Can I have the next question?
All right,
please?
brother.
Thank you very much.
Keep the faith. When white people say they're white, they're not referring to the color of their skin. If Margaret Thatcher gets a suntan, I don't know what it would look like, but let's just assume that Margaret Thatcher got a suntan. You wouldn't call her a colored woman, would you? You would still call her a white woman, even though her skin may be brown. What do you mean when you say white? You mean that she is from Europe. So whether she's Italian, white, Sweden, white, England, white, France, white. White means coming from Europe. Black means coming from Africa. So whether we're fair skin, brown skin, dark skin, East Coast, West Coast, North, South, if we're from the black continent and we've been here 300 years, we are black people from the black continent. All over the world, 1 billion people uniting through Ramadan. That's why I'm hopeful and optimistic that by the year 2050, when 1 out of every 2 persons would have been born a Muslim, we would have the first real meaningful opportunity for a permanent world peace. Salaam alaikum.
This country could explode.
Who will be the first targets? The businessmen, the lawyers, those who didn't want the masses in their office. They will come without your permission. So if Hitler killed 6 million Jews who were European Jews, and Hitler was a European, give the Jews part of Germany, not of Palestine. Sure, he works, so do I. Raising the kids is not easy. Cooking and washing and taking them to the school, this is not easy. He doesn't seem to understand I work too. What I'm trying to find out, and you may know better than I do, tell me specifically, if I got this, everyone in this room, and we went out to the homeland and we started teaching people how to read who did not know how to read, what would the government do?
What I'm saying to you in closing is that there is a great opportunity to really be a new South Africa and a new African. Forget the Begin, there will be no gifts. I don't care what the World Bank tells you and International Monetary Fund tells you, it's crumbs.